Today's special edition of the weekly WeHot.com Roundtable. I'm John Lyons here with Ronni Newton, the managing editor of WeHot.com, as always. And our guest today is Essie LeBreau, who is the town clerk for the town of West Hartford. Essie, how are you?
Good, thank you.
So we had a technical issue because TV was running a little bit late, so I had to hold up on that. We had to do some back end stuff here. So we are ready to go, running about 10 minutes late, but we are ready to get started. Just waiting for TV to pick us up. We'll get a confirmation and Ronni to do the usual placements on all the sites. And we are being carried statewide today on Connecticut News Junkie. Thank you to the folks over there and welcome to all the people around the state. While we are talking West Hartford centric today, I think a lot of the topics we are discussing will relate regardless of what town you're in Connecticut. So we'll get rolling here when Ronni gives us the all clear, and we're going to talk about voting today. Very important topic too.
Okay, 1 second, and we will be good to go. And we are good to go.
All right, terrific. Welcome to the show, Essie. Welcome, and I'm just making sure I got the all clear from TV. We do, so we're good to go. So, Essie, welcome. How are you?
Good, thank you. Thank you for doing this. This is really important, especially at this time, 2 weeks before the election.
We have gotten a lot of requests from people both within the parties and outside the parties to do this. We know it's important. That's why we're doing a special Tuesday lunchtime edition, and it will be available for rebroadcast on WeHot.com. So be sure to share the link and let people know that you can watch this. So Essie, let's talk a little bit first. How's it going?
It's going really well. We've had a lot of absentee ballots go out. We had over 18,000 go out so far, and about just over 11,000 have been returned as of today, and there's more coming every single day. I see people outside at the drop boxes, which are great, taking selfies, putting in their ballot in the ballot drop box. So it's all good. We're getting an awful lot of phone calls, as you can imagine. I think we are at over the 3,500 mark for the month of October already.
Wow.
So that's, people still have questions. They want to do it right. They want to be careful about this because voting by mail, many people are doing it for the first time. So they want to make sure they get it right.
All right, so let's talk some numbers here. So you talked about how you've had 18,000. So the process is you mail out an application for an absentee ballot or a mail-in ballot to every registered voter in town.
The Secretary of State did that, and this is the first time. Actually, it was the primary where the Secretary of State mailed out the applications, and the voter should fill out that application and return it to the town clerk's office as soon as possible. We're down to the 2 weeks right now, so it's very important. If someone applied for a ballot 2 or 3 weeks ago and they did not receive one, they should contact their town clerk's office. So and we can reissue another ballot to them. We simply void the original one.
And then if somebody didn't get an application, they can still
download it off the website. And I would encourage people to use the Dropbox rather than rely on the U.S. Postal Service. People are listening to the national news, and different states do things differently. So I would encourage people to go to their town clerk website and look for information. We have the downloadable applications if you're an overseas voter. We have Q&As. If there's any question that you have, you can probably find it on our website. And I would encourage people to do that. This is not early voting. We're getting a lot of calls about early voting. Different states do early voting at the polling place. The state of Connecticut does not do that. Our early voting is really the absentee ballot. That's our method of early voting. It is by mail, and you must fill out an application to request it. You will not be getting an automatic ballot. And that's where people sometimes get confused. They hear news stories from other states and they think they're going to get a ballot and the application is not the ballot. So you must fill out that application. We also need an original signature. So we get a lot of college students that are sending us emailed applications, but we must get that original signature and form back in the office by election day. We can issue the ballot, but it will not be counted unless we have that original signature in our office by 8 p.m. on election day.
Once you get the application, how quickly do you turn around the absentee ballot?
Within 48 hours.
Okay.
And we are basically trying to stay on top of a 24-hour time frame too. So we take the ballots and applications out of the Dropbox. You can put your application in the Dropbox. So that is something that people have also asked about. You can put that application in the Dropbox. We take the materials out at least twice a day, and then we issue the ballots first. Ballots first, and that gets a priority. And then we receive the ballots in. It goes through our CVRS system, the voter registration system, and that's where the voter can take a look later on to see if their ballot was in fact received by our office.
All right.
And to see if the application was mailed as well. Right?
Correct. That's
or
correct.
If the application was received.
Yes.
We're assuming most people got their application unless they moved or for some other reason.
Right. And I have to say, with the U.S. mail, I have had some residents call that said they applied back in September, and there was one individual that contacted me, and she hadn't received her ballot. So we were all ready to reissue the ballot, and she called and said, "I just got the ballot," and for some reason, even though it was mailed on October 2nd, it was postmarked October 14th. So there are, it's a manual process. The U.S. mail. If you leave an application or a ballot at a post office, there still is a manual process for handling that ballot. So I would definitely use the drop boxes. They are, like I said, we empty them multiple times a day, and we turn over those applications as soon as we can get them.
And in addition to the 2 drop boxes outside Town Hall, there's a third one, right?
Yes, and that is at Jackson Library. Yes.
So for those who might be concerned or who might not want to drive into the center or who might have more concern about being around people, the one at the Jackson Library is kind of, not remote in a scary sense, because there are, I think you said that there needed to be security cameras and good lighting and accessibility, but it's just the one drop box by itself.
That's correct.
Don't accidentally drop it in the library book Dropbox, though.
One of the other things that we have been seeing, unfortunately, not many, but some, when you're filling out your ballot, it's really important that envelope and sign it. We have had a number of questions about the name matching the label. This is the label that is on your electoral label, as we refer to it, that has your voter information, your address, your voting district. And as long as you sign that envelope, we do not match letter for letter. If you don't put your middle address or your middle initial, that's okay. But you must sign that envelope in order for that ballot to be counted. The other thing is that it must go in this envelope, because this is what gives us the information in how to record that your ballot was received, and that you are that A will go next to your name, so that it'll be recorded that you voted by absentee ballot. Even though you drop it in a drop box, it still has to be in that outer envelope, because that identifies you as having voted. So those are 2 critical pieces of information that people really need to pay attention to. We need both envelopes, the inner one signed, and then put into the outer envelope.
Okay, so Essie, let me take you through, because we jumped into the materials that you have. So let's take it through. I know we might be repeating a little bit here, but I want to take it through page by page where people can see what we're talking about. So this is the outer envelope you talked about.
Yes.
Okay. All right. And again, this one's pretty easy. Just put your return address. The postage I see is already paid for,
Yes.
which is pretty nice. So
Yes.
it saves you that 50 cents or whatever. I don't even know.
55, I think.
Yeah. Yeah. So anyway, all right. So let's talk about this. Now, this is the backside of the main envelope, or no, this is the inner envelope, correct?
No, that's the outer envelope, and
Okay.
that's where it's got your voter information. There's a label that has your name, your address, your voting district, and there's a barcode as well.
Okay. All
So
right.
this example only has a number on it. It doesn't show, there's no label.
Or barcode.
Or
Right.
yeah.
We put that label on
Okay.
after the ballot is issued.
And just for people's security, so they can feel safe, there's no personal information on the back of this envelope.
Other than name and address,
Right.
no, there is not.
Okay, terrific. Okay, let's go to the next one here. Okay, this is the inner envelope.
Correct.
Okay. This one, just simply you date and sign.
Yes. Yes.
Okay. Let's just say hypothetically somebody forgets to date it, or I'll tell you a silly story. On my birthday, I had to write a check. Okay, and it just had it. I was not born in 2020, so when I filled out the birth date, I put my year of birth by mistake. Let's say somebody makes that kind of mistake. If it's undated,
I don't believe that would be a problem. The signature is the most critical piece of information. The registrars actually do the counting. There's an absentee ballot moderator and absentee ballot counters that will actually open all these envelopes on election day. And the first thing they look for is a signature. If there is a date missing or a date that's a different date, I don't believe that that's something they would reject the ballot on, because they look at the intent of the voter, and clearly people sometimes confuse dates, or they're filling out the ballot, not on an election day necessarily. So that would be a case where the date would not matter that much. The signature absolutely does.
You're kind of hitting on what I was thinking, because I could see somebody thinking, oh, the election's November 3rd. I better put November 3rd as the date.
Right.
That type of thing. So, all right, let me jump to the last piece you sent us. Now, this is an actual ballot, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Terrific. Now, one thing that's different between this election and the August 11th primary is every single person who's a registered voter, regardless of party, needs to vote. And they all get the same, and they all get the same ballot, with the exception of the
it's by legislative district, and we also have it by voting district. So we have 9 voting districts in West Hartford, and your ballot should say the voting district on the top, in that top right-hand corner as well. And that also differentiates your legislative district.
And to be clear, the only thing you're going to do with this sheet of paper is fill within the line, draw that little circle of who you're voting for. There's no signature, there's no handwriting, nothing anywhere on it. So,
correct.
All right, terrific. I'm going to bring this back up. Thank you for that presentation, Essie. I do have more questions. Whoop, let's get rid of that. There we go.
I also have a question that somebody texted me. And that's whether or not you can put a register to vote form in the Dropbox.
Absolutely. Yes.
Oh, you can? Okay.
Yes. It's all election materials. And certainly we work with the registrar's office all the time when we empty that election. That's why we call it an election Dropbox, because we want people to know that they can put in applications, voter registration cards, and it's all election material.
Okay.
All right. Essie, let's talk some numbers here, because you brought up at the beginning of the call, you had 18,000 so far requests for ballots. Are the requests still coming in, or have they slowed way down?
Yes, they are still coming in. And as we are winding down and we are reliant on the mail, people have to really think about this and make sure that they try to use the Dropbox so that we can get those ballots out right away. Because even if it takes 2 days to get the ballot out, then they need to return it. And I would recommend using the Dropbox rather than putting it in the US mail at this time.
How many registered voters do we have in West Hartford?
Right now, there is about 41,700.
Roughly.
So,
Okay.
yes.
That's enough. So
I
of
thought you were going to say 703.5.
so now, next question. How many people typically vote in a presidential in West Hartford? Do you know that number offhand?
Yes. Well, actually, in 2016, it was about 77%. In 2008, it was 83%.
So
So,
roughly 30 to 33,000, if I'm
correct.
doing my math right.
Correct.
So
34,000 voted in 2016.
you are in good shape
Yes.
having 25 or more than 25, 30% of that number, a third actually, having already voted.
Yes.
So hopefully that means for the and I think the messaging here, and I don't want to speak for you, SE, but is vote early. I think that's the message. And
Well, people want that option, and one of the reasons why, obviously, COVID was the whole reason why we're doing this, but people need to plan, and they also wanted to have an option. Let's say something happens where the COVID rates go up, and we go into a lockdown next week. People will want to have that ballot in hand rather than having to go to the polls. So I've heard from a number of people that said, I have my ballot, but I still may want to go to the polling place. So the answer to that is hold on to the ballot, and when you make a decision whether you're going to the polling place or not, then you can send in that ballot if you decide to vote by mail. If not, just discard the ballot and go to the polling place. As of this point, because we have so many absentee ballots back and people have voted, we don't expect to see lines at the polling places. There's plenty of staff. There hasn't been an issue getting poll workers. I know they're planning for a large number at the polls, but like I said, because we already have a large number that voted by mail, we will not see lines at the polling places this year.
So, and that's what I did. I applied for my absentee ballot. I have the ballot in hand. I haven't filled it out yet. My goal is, or my plan is, to vote at the polling place. I'll be reporting on the election anyway, so I probably would be visiting the polling places in any case. So I do plan to vote in person, but just in case I start running a fever or something happens, at least I won't be giving up my ability to vote. And that's what I've been telling people.
Right. And people have to remember that ballot must be received by 8 p.m. on Tuesday of Election Day. Do not rely on the mail by sending it out on Friday or Saturday or Monday, because especially if it's Monday, we won't get it by 8 p.m. on Tuesday. So use the drop boxes. And unlike some states, in Connecticut, every ballot is counted. And the only way it wouldn't be counted is if your signature is not on that inner envelope, or you don't have the outer envelope. So those are the two biggest reasons why a ballot isn't counted. And it's typically voter error. I don't like to see ballots coming back after Election Day. We do get a large number of those. As a matter of fact, I got 3 ballots back yesterday from the primary. And they were people that I think they were confused, and they may have thought that, here's a ballot and I can.
So what happens when you get something like that?
It's just it's a late ballot. We did try to contact the voter to let them know that this was a primary ballot, not for the November election. So we are attempting to do that. But depending on signatures, I mean, if someone drops their inner envelope without the outer envelope, if we can read their name, we will try to contact them. But obviously, as time goes on and we get closer to that election date, it's not possible to do that every time.
Essie, when are you allowed to start counting the ballots?
The registrars will be starting to open the outer envelopes the Saturday before the election. It will allow them to open do the check off where your name, they verify. And that's when Connecticut's got some really good checks and balances. So they verify that the ballot in hand is on that voter list is having voted by absentee, and they will be allowed to open the outer envelope, keeping the inner envelope to be opened only on election day.
Will you be opening the envelopes all day election day when you show up at 9 a.m., 8 a.m.? Are you going to start opening?
The registrars, the absentee ballot moderator, and the group of people that will be doing that will actually be starting at 6 a.m. because there was some new timeframes allowed by the state. And so instead of 10 a.m., we're allowed to start the process at 6 a.m. So if you'd like to come and watch that at 6 a.m., John, you're welcome to come.
Ronni and I have not discussed our election day plan, other than both of us are probably going to be popping around to a couple of the polls. But I just received a text. I don't want to say who from, but Ronni received the same text. And for me, it's not at all the first one I've received saying we should cover something on election day. So you never know. Ronni and I need to huddle on that. But back to the voting. So here's the only concern. And Essie, I'm not trying to put you on the spot or have a gotcha moment, but the only thing I'm afraid of, let's say I diligently fill out my absentee ballot and I make a mistake, and I send the ballot in. At what point can I look and see if my vote has been tabulated?
That is something, tabulated is different from being received. Being received means I have this in our vault.
Do you show that
counted? So
do you show that online? If
Pardon?
you receive it, do you show if you've received it online? Can I check and see if you've received mine?
Yes, it's on the My Vote CT /lookup.
And that's all part of that Connecticut voter
registration. The ballot,
voting
yeah, it will show that the ballot was received in my office. And at that point, that A goes next to your name on your, when the registrars print out the poll books.
And SC, could you give me that website again? I'm going to put it up in the remarks so that people can see it through the broadcast.
My Vote CT /lookup.
Is it .com?
And that's on the Secretary of State's website.
All right, so I just want to make sure. Is it myvotect.gov?
Yes.
Okay, .gov
/lookup.
Lookup. Okay, terrific. I've just put that in the comments for the viewers, so maybe bookmark that page. I think it's really important that people are able to see that their votes are their ballots have been received. Now, the next question I have, and you and I talked a little bit about this offline, and I know you checked with the registrars on this. There have been calls in some circles for supporters to monitor, I'm using air quotes, the polling places the day of the election. Now, obviously, with no coordinated effort, that could be very challenging. I mean, I've worked a polling place. I've got nothing but confidence in you and the process. But for those that maybe don't understand the process, walk us through that so that they know their vote really is being counted.
Are you talking absentee or the?
Well, no, I'm talking about live voting.
Well, that's something that the registrars have been working on, having safe distance, having appropriate PPE, protective equipment and devices. They've got plexiglass, they've got masks, they've got gloves. And so when a voter goes to a polling place, actually, I'd like to plug our little video that we did. It's on my website, where we walked through the process of how to vote at the polling place and also how to vote by absentee ballot. And it is going to be very safe. There'll be plenty of poll workers there to assist and guide voters. The voters only will be touching the ballot and a pen, basically, and the process should be done very quickly. As I said, we don't anticipate long lines in our 9 polling places.
And you feed your own ballot into the tabulation machine, so you see that happen.
When you're physically voting, yes, you see that. You see your ballot going in, and the number clicks up as to how many are put in that tabulator machine. And
as usual, any supporters of candidates are required to stand, what is it, 75 feet
Well,
away from the doorway?
If you're talking about unofficial checkers, that is what the parties can submit. I believe it's 48 hours before election day, submit a list of names to the registrars as unofficial checkers. And they are the ones that basically stand behind and can verify the people as they come through and have their names crossed off on the voting list.
So Essie, I have just posted in the comments a link to the YouTube educational video that you and Jen Evans put together. It's about 7 minutes long. It's very good. They showed it last night before the debate. It's very, very good. So we have that. So Essie, one more question. Again, I don't know if you've got the answer, if it's more registrars. You know, there have been calls in some quarters for people to show up to quote unquote monitor. Let's just say, you know, lay people. If somebody shows up wishing to monitor voting, you know, what's your advice to them?
They should contact the registrars prior to election day.
Okay.
And they can answer those questions. And also, it depends. Do they want to be an unofficial checker for the election? So that is something that the registrars can certainly answer and handle for anyone that's interested. One other thing that I'd like you to mention is that we have an email account, elections@westhartfordct.gov. And if anybody has any questions, please email us. As I said, we are getting a large number of phone calls, emails. We're able to fix a problem if you have one, but let us know. Like I said, if you did not get your ballot and you submitted an application, please contact us right away. If there's anything wrong with your ballot, your envelope, if you make a mistake, if you put in the wrong, let us know. We can fix it. We can fix most every problem, except if you mail it in too late, or if you don't sign that inner envelope or use the outer envelope. But pretty much everything else we can fix for you.
And I know you said this, and I know it does vary a little bit by state, but 8:01 p.m. if I show up at that box and drop my ballot in, it is waste
It's going
paper.
to be locked.
Okay.
It will be locked.
Yep. Okay. All right. Terrific. Ronni, any more questions on your end?
No. Well, actually, one of the things that when you and I spoke before, you talked about if you wait until election day, your ballot won't be counted kind of in the initial count. It will ultimately
Correct.
be counted, but it won't be
Correct.
in the initial report.
Right. And the reason for that is when we get ballots on election day, they need to be checked against the voter roll, the polling books, so that we can verify that the person didn't go to the polls to vote. So what the state is allowing us to do is hold those ballots for the next day, and they won't be counted on Tuesday night, but they will be added into the number on Wednesday after the registrars have an opportunity to check the poll books to make sure that person didn't go in person at the polling place to vote. And if they did, that ballot will not be counted. It will be voided.
And is that different this year because of the volume of absentee ballot voting?
Yes. Usually what we've done in the past is we've called the polling places. As we got the ballots in by district, we would call the moderators at the polling places to say, check these names off your list. But it's, with the volume that we have right now, and actually West Hartford is number 2 in the state for the most number of absentee ballots issued. And I think we're number 1 so far in the number returned. So,
wow.
Yeah.
Essie, do you, and I know this might be the toughest question because this 11,000 number is not static at this point. It's still climbing, and hopefully will climb substantially over the next 10 or 12 days. Do you think starting at 6 a.m., do you think you'll be able to give us results at 8 or 9 or 10 o'clock that night?
I've spoken to the registrars as they are in charge of that function, and they have enough of absentee ballot counters. They know what they're doing. They're experienced people. I know the absentee ballot moderator is experienced. They did this for the primary, a very large number, so they know what to expect. They're doing being able to open that envelope that first envelope prior to election day will really make things go a lot quicker. So I'm hopeful that there will be a quick result in West Hartford.
Is being able to open that outer envelope uniform across the state?
Yes. Well, towns can choose to do that if they want to.
Okay.
Keep in mind, we have 169 towns, and some of them are very small, and they may only have 1,000 ballots. So that is not, something that's easy. But when you're dealing, like my office, with potentially 20,000, you welcome being able to do that one process earlier.
And you have an automatic opener this year,
yes,
right?
I do. And I'm going to loan it to the registrars.
Well,
so that'll help avoid paper cuts, right?
Oh, yes.
And having to, run your hand underneath where somebody licked. So, it's a bit less contagious way of doing it too. So anyway, Ronni, any last questions or thoughts?
Yeah. So what about if people aren't registered to vote yet? Can they still do that?
They need to do that immediately. Yes, as soon as possible. Don't wait. And what is some of the great things I've been seeing on the news? I know with our Secretary of State doing PSAs, and even nationally, have a plan. We're getting down to the last 2 weeks. Do not wait. And that's the most important message. Use the Dropbox. Check to make sure you're registered. Because that can hold up an application. We get applications in, and people don't realize they're not registered to vote. So that means we have to contact them, they have to register, and then we can issue the ballot, because we cannot issue a ballot without you being registered.
And if you've moved, you can still change your address?
Oh, yes. Yes, the address changes are challenging, especially if you've already voted in one district. So if you do move within town, please notify the registrars and let them know, because it could affect how we count the ballot in what district. If you move within town, but you may be in another legislative district and not even realize it. And so that matters. It means you should get a different ballot. So all those little things are important.
Or if you've moved, or if you were a college student, shout out to my daughter, for the 2016 election and lived in a different town in the state, but haven't changed your address to
and college students, again, they have to sign that application. We've had a few parents signing for their students, and that's not allowed by statute. So they have to sign their own application, and keep in mind the mail. Today, as a matter of fact, we got a number of out-of-state requests, and it's going to take time for that ballot to get there, and then it's going to take time for the ballot to be returned. So with 2 weeks out, get your mail-in ballot application in, and do it now. Don't wait.
And be specific about your address too. I think we talked about this. College students don't just say.
Yes, we've had trouble with, especially apartments and houses, and having the name, your name on your mailbox. There were a lot of undeliverables last year and in previous years, and a lot of college students, because their name wasn't on the mailbox, or just difficulty delivering them.
Any more questions, Ronni?
I think that's it for my questions.
Yep, I'm looking at my notes. I think we've covered everything. So
we've been trying to keep people up to date on WeHow.com about everything having to do with the voting process, and we'll keep doing that as we get closer, and we'll also, of course, have election coverage.
Go to, I'll give WeHow a plug. Go to WeHow.com, and they've got a great search function. Just type in voter or election, and you'll probably get quite a number of news stories and informational articles relating to this topic. But Essie, it's an important one. We're grateful for having you on today, and for you being able to come on today. Thank you very, very much. Ronni, another great show. This one went smoothly. So except for starting
Very smoothly. Yeah.
So we started a few minutes late, but that's okay. We got the salient point covered. So we are not going to have a show next week. We're going to take a week off. No, I'm sorry. We're not going to have another show this week. Next week, I think we are. Then election week, we're going to talk about, and then we'll be back on the air the week of November 9th. So until next week, for Ronni Newton, I'm John Lyons.